Let's get into this matchup. The Commanders are going to be headed to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. All right, man. Like I said, if you are a Commanders content creator, it's been a tough road for you guys, but this year's been all worth it. You're going to want to get your spiral notebook and your pencil with an eraser on top ready to go because there's going to be a lot of nuggets in this one. The Commanders are going to be taking on the Lions here Saturday at 8 p.m. The Lions are favored by 9.5. The over-under was 55.5 last time I checked. That what you got?
Yep.
That sounded about right, man. These are two top offenses. I think the Commanders are the sixth ranked offense. Detroit Lions fifth. And where's Detroit?
In scoring,
in scoring.
Detroit's number one.
Detroit's number one. I thought so.
33.2 points per game.
They cooking. They definitely cooking over there. Last week, the Commanders beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels was everything in that game. He accounted for 87% of the offense, 268 yards through the air. He had like 37 yards on the ground, very pivotal yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Diami Brown, man, he was a dog in that game, had 89 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, the guy that I keep saying is not in the top 3, but some people are still giving me pushback on that little shorts on our YouTube channel. But he had a good day, too. He had 89 yards as well and a touchdown. That's the kind of productivity from your wide receivers that a quarterback like Jaden Daniels absolutely needs, but is not, I won't say necessary for a victory, but when we're talking about going up against the Detroit Lions, we're going to need a repeat performance of that one. Just 44 yards rushing from the running backs last week. That's not going to get it done. Lions are the number 1 seed. They had a bye last week. They got a 15-2 record. I mean, they're on fire right now. You just got to hope that, maybe that bye kind of took a little bit of steam off of their momentum, and you're going in here and you're catching the number 1 seed slipping. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll see. Last meeting, the Lions beat the Commanders 36-27. That was in 2022. Washington is coming off his first playoff win in 19 years. Jaden Daniels became the 4th rookie quarterback in NFL history to win his first career playoff start. The Lions and the Commanders last met in the playoffs in the 1999 season. The previous 2 times that they played in the postseason, which was in 1982, a year before I was born, and in 1991, the Washington Redskins of the time went on to go play in the Super Bowl. So that's some good stuff for you guys right here. The Lions have won the last 2 matchups. In fact, the Lions have won 6 of the last 7. 5 of those games were decided by 1 score. But this is a very different Commanders team with a very different beast at the quarterback position right now. The Commanders have won 5 straight games on the absolute last possession of the game in a row. And even when the surroundings are not perfect, Jaden Daniels has been completely great this year. And in my opinion, he is a top 10 quarterback right now. Sustaining drives and the red zone. I'm going to stay away from all the roadmap stuff that I can possibly stay away from. I know the Beard's got the roadmap ready to go and probably has a lot of nuggets on this one too, but it's super important that Washington capitalizes in the red zone and continues to sustain drives the way that they have been sustaining drives. Washington has the 5th best red zone offense in the league right now. The Lions have the number 1 red zone offense in the league. So this is going to be a great battle of 2 teams that like to score when they get between the 20. Last week, the Commanders did not punt the ball 1 time, but Washington was 2 for 5 in the red zone versus the Bucs. The Commanders only had 3 possessions in the first half, and the defense needs to find a way to get off the field. I think that was the theme of last week's game. Too many drives being sustained early on, keeping that defense on the field and keeping Jaden Daniels off the field, which is not a recipe for the victory. The Lions are going to try to establish the run. We do know that with Sonic and Knuckles, or whatever they calling them 2 dudes right now. But the Commanders ran 22% of their plays in the red zone in the first quarter this season. That's 1st in the NFL. So continue that theme. The Lions defense, they've been really good. They allowed a completion percentage of just 39% in the red zone this season, number 1 in the NFL. 35 completions on 85 attempts. And the second and third things I'll talk about here is discipline. The Commanders got to be disciplined. The Beard mentioned about the penalties, and last week they did kind of clean that up with 5 penalties for 39 yards. The Commanders are right in the middle of the pack as far as penalties go. They're 16th in the NFL, but the Commanders are 5-0 this season when the opposing team commits 60 yards or more in penalties. That's best in the NFL. So cross your fingers and hope that the Detroit Lions have a couple of pre-snap penalties.
We got a bad ref crew this week, though. They're very home and favorite friendly based upon the
I don't believe in that. Now I don't believe in none of that. What they Detroit Lions fans over there?
No, I'm not saying that.
Are the stripes light blue?
That's just what the numbers say. The numbers say, just keep your eye on that. That's all.
I feel you on that. I think that Terry McLaurin's also going to have another big game here. We talked about the 89 yards last week, 10 targets, 12 targets against Dallas the week before. But Terry has not had a 100-yard game since Thanksgiving. And you know why that is because he's lacking the explosive plays in the last couple of weeks. That's been the big thing. Got to get the explosive plays. I don't know how much I talked about this at the beginning of the year with the New York Giants. Shout out to Warren Sharp. If you get just one explosive play on a drive, you are 10 times more likely to score a touchdown than if you don't have at least one explosive play. The Lions right now are 5-0 when allowing less than 5 explosive plays in a game, number 1 in the NFL. They also run a ton of man-to-man coverage, and in man coverage this year, they had 60.7% of their snaps on defense in man coverage. But Jaden Daniels has been really good against man coverage this year. 20 of his 25 passing touchdowns came against man coverage. He's been a little bit better against the zone, but, I mean, Jaden Daniels is the kind of quarterback that you can throw whatever you want at him, and he's still going to be able to get it done. I am afraid, though. I think that this is going to be another one of those games where if you guys want a victory here, Jaden Daniels is going to have to show up big because the supporting cast has not been consistent this year. Brian Robinson has not had a touchdown in 5 straight games. He's averaging just 35 yards per game over that 5-game stretch. Last week, he had 10 carries for 16 yards. I don't even want to try to do the math. It's pretty easy math, but that's not a good yards per carry.
1.6.
That's some shit right there. All right, the week before that, he 1 point shit, yeah. The week before that against Dallas, he had 5 carries for 10 yards. That's not good either, okay? Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, and Chris Rodriguez have combined for 85 rushes for 190 yards over the past 5 games. That's 2.2 yards per carry. We got to pick it up, guys.
2.2
yards per carry, all right? Now, Jaden Daniels, he was the leading passer and the leading rusher for the Commanders this season. I don't think you're going to be able to find another quarterback in the entire NFL that led his team in rushing and in passing. There's not another one.
No.
Now, QB has been the leading passer. Notice I say QB has been the leading passer and rusher for 4 straight games because even in the last game of the season, Marcus Mariota led you guys in rushing and passing as well. Yeah. And it's been in 5 of the last 6 games that the quarterback has led the team in passing and in rushing. So if you really, all year I've talked about this. Came into the year, I thought Brian Robinson was the best player on that offense. Jaden Daniels has clearly taken over the reins of the best player on that offense, and Terry McLaurin is being a guy who is reaping the benefits of that as well. When you have big games from Brian Robinson, it's typically a blowout for the Washington Commanders. The Arizona game, the Carolina Panthers game was like that, and a few others were like that. And when you don't have a good rushing game to support your young rookie quarterback, now you're putting all this stuff on his shoulders to have to go out there and win these games. Jaden Daniels in the 4th quarter has been electric. The guy has a completion percentage that jumps up 4 points in the 4th quarter. I told you when you guys first drafted him, Jaden Daniels' whole swag reminds me of a basketball player. Mm-hmm. Like the way he moves on the court, you know, when you step back 3, that's how Jaden Daniels does a little juke every now and again. Or when he stops on a dime when the defender's trying to get him when he's rolling out of the pocket, it's almost like a Tim Hardaway little stiff leg crossover, right? It's very quick and very, very basketball-like. Yeah. Even when you see him walking around the field, he got his, his chin to the sky, just like a basketball player does. I don't know if you remember at the pro day, he was carrying a basketball at the pro day on the sidelines. Remember that? So for me, I think that this game is going to boil down to truly Jaden Daniels and the way that he performs in this game. And if he can have a bigger, better day, clear better day than Jared Goff, the Washington Commanders should be able to win this game. Last thing I want to talk about is tempo, and I'm going to kick this to you. The Commanders' hurry-up offense. I went to the film session over the summer. Shout out to Chris Peace, who blessed me with the tickets for that. And I got to hang out with Daryl Tapp and Bobby Ingram, the wide receivers coach. And when I left that whole entire function, the theme of that function was this year, and I'm surprised they told this to the fans. I know it was for season ticket holders, and I weaseled my way up in there as a Giants fan, right? But I'm surprised they let the cat out the bag about this during the offseason. They said, Bobby Ingram in particular said, we are going to have a strong emphasis on the hurry-up offense this year. Jaden Daniels has played 1,079 snaps this season. 62.4 of them were out of the no-huddle. The Commanders have been, when they run that up-tempo offense, and the Beard loves it. He's been asking for up-tempo offense since we've started the podcast. They are a much better team, and they are one of the best teams that run that no-huddle this season. They're first in passing yards. They're first in passing touchdowns. The completion percentage is where things get a little dicey, where they're about middle of the pack, but they're also first in first downs, and they're first in rushing yards. So I think the no-huddle is going to definitely play its role. You don't want to get behind the chains, and you don't want to get behind on the scoreboard too far so that you can't run the style of offense that you guys want to run. I think the Commanders got a great chance in this game against the Detroit Lions, though. And as you can see, my whole approach is from a Commander's perspective. I didn't break it down from a Lions perspective because one of the Beard's favorite movies, Cool Runnings. I don't know if you remember how they was doing Team Jamaica for like the first couple of runs. Like, man, who these bozos out here sliding around on the ice? And then when they started to show up and show out, finally the two announcers were like, hey, man, opened up the shirts, and they had the Jamaican shirts underneath. Well, I'm kind of repping for my boy with the Commanders here, and I'm rooting for a Commanders win. That's the reason why the whole approach comes from the Washington Commanders. But let me know your thoughts on this matchup. I think I was a little bit long-winded there, but I think I set it up pretty good.
There's plenty of wind in the room, my friend, for you. Okay? Listen, it's interesting you talk about that tempo offense because it's not a traditional hurry-up offense either. They kind of are, it's a no huddle more than it is a hurry up. They get to the line and they're running, they're making the play calls and they're substituting. It reminds me, it's funny, I talked about hockey earlier. It reminds me a little bit about hockey. Like there's like the line change almost because now you have to allow the defense to change their substitutions as well. But it's good. It's so good. I love it because we went years without seeing motion, for Christ's sakes, yet alone this sort of offense. I mean, we used to just beg for a wide receiver to run from one side of the formation to the other side, you know, and I think Cliff Kingsbury has done such a great with that job with that, and I love it. And I think Austin Eckler coming back in the Dallas game was so important because it just gave him a little bit of that rust off, and he was really good in that game against Tampa Bay. Not crazy numbers, but he ran the ball for a couple of first downs, had a couple of huge catches, picked up some good blocks, you know, protecting Jaden Daniels because the offensive line, it does its job, but it's very inconsistent as of late. And running the ball and passing the ball as far as blocking goes for that offensive line. A lot of people want to be like, put the blame on Brian Robinson, but I feel like, and I should have looked at these numbers specifically, but I feel like he's getting hit in the backfield on like 30 to 40% of those carries. Like it's not even like him not having the right vision or not making the right moves. Like they're getting hit in the backfield.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that they're going to have to figure out. And obviously the turnovers are huge for Washington. You know, like in the Tampa Bay game, that was a game changer. The Bobby Wagner picking up the Baker Mayfield fumble handoff. I still don't know if that was supposed to be a fake or it was a jet sweep.
Baker took blame for it.
Yeah, he took the blame for it.
Timing of the motion looked like it was a little bit ahead of the snap, and he tried to reach and he kind of couldn't get it there, and just a boneheaded play on his part.
Yeah, so I think that the turnover is going to be a huge, you know, point of emphasis here. Washington during the regular season was +1. They were +1 in that Tampa Bay game. Detroit's +9, and Detroit's defense is banged up. I mean, they are hurt, but they got some guys back last week. They're going to have a couple of guys back this week, but they still played really well. I mean, you're talking about a team, too, with this is another one that shocked me when I looked at these time of possession numbers, because generally you look at Detroit and you think they score quick, right? And the big plays, and it's just it feels like they're more quick offense. They're number 2 in time of possession.
Sounds right. I mean, they're the two-headed running backs, man, are really helping out that situation. And there are games. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions in a game, and they still won.
Yeah, that's a crazy game there. And listen, it's going to be interesting to see how David Montgomery is coming back from that injury. I know he's coming back for this game. They have weapons all over the damn field, and weapons that match up very well against Washington's weaknesses defensively. You know, Jamison Williams, that guy can put up a 60-yard reception on you. He can get 5 explosive plays in a game by himself. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And then you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has his vendetta against the Washington franchise for picking Diami Brown over him. You know, you got Sam Laporta. You got the two running backs.
I'm mad you just told me that because I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he has the list, man. The list.
I remember the list, but when you correlate it to Diami Brown over Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's like, kill me. Let me jump off this bridge right now.
Yeah, they're picking the wrong Brown in that situation. But listen, shout out Diami. Diami had a great game last week. He stepped up huge for this offense, and we really needed him to. We're going up against the number 2 pass defense in the league. I mean, pass offense in the league. They're putting up 263 per game. Washington's pass defense is sneaky good, sneaky bad, okay? Because they don't allow that many yards. They don't, and they're one of the best in the league as far as yards allowed defensively passing. But
that stat is so skewed, bro.
It's so skewed.
Bro,
That's why
the Giants have the ninth best pass defense in the league from a yard standpoint.
It was Tennessee who really pointed that out to us, right?
Yeah. And but Tennessee's their pass defense has been good, but the field position has been what's really bad for them. You look at those two stats need to be correlated with points per game and passing yards per game. And throw passing touchdowns in there as well.
And then we're gonna separate the rushing yards from rushing quarterback yards too, right? Because that's another thing.
Think about the Rams in that situation, right? Yeah. Like you got Matthew Stafford, who's probably going to give you. I think I saw against the spread, this guy's like 10 straight games under the rushing total. Yeah. Like he's not getting you any like rushing yards.
2 yards rushing, maybe a game. You know what I'm saying? But like you look at Washington, it's like Jaden Daniels is probably in the season. He's got to be like 60%,
55. I know he's 55%. 55 yards per game on the ground.
Yeah, so 55 yards per game on the ground. Washington's number 3 in the league in rushing yards at 154.1.
Yeah, so he's a third of the yards. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Detroit's rush defense is fantastic. They're one of the few teams that allow under 100 yards rushing per game. 98.4 yards per game on the ground Detroit allows. And then points per game, you talked about this when we talked about the over. Washington's number 5 in the league at 28.5. Detroit Lions, number 1 scoring team in the league, 33.2. That is it's just bonkers to think that, you know. And they're good defensively. They allow the 7th fewest points per game at 20.1. So, I mean, there's a reason they're 15-2, obviously. And then you went over some of those red zone numbers. I'm really concerned about some of that red zone, you know, for Detroit offensively and defensively. Yeah. But that's
where you're going to need Brian Robinson because their numbers in the red zone against the pass are really good.
Would you say 39? You said
percent? Yeah, 39%.
Yeah, so it's weird because it's like I want to talk about how important first and second downs are, and how important third downs are, and how important fourth downs are in this game, because each one of them are going to play a role, because you're down in distance on third is going to be so critical for both of these teams. Mm-hmm. So yes, obviously first and second down, the success rate of those downs is what gets you to the third and manageable distances, right? Because third down offensively, Washington is number 6 in the league, 45.6%, right? Detroit Lions defensively, number 1 third down defense in the league, 32.4%. conversion rate allowed on third down defensively. Offensively, you'd imagine Detroit, they're really good. They're 4th in the league at 47.6%. Washington's third down defense has struggled at times. Last week, they allowed Tampa Bay to be 5 of 9. They're about 15th in the league at 38.2 third down defensively. So a lot's going to come down to these third down plays. But let's talk about it realistically. This is Dan Campbell going up against Dan Quinn. This is going to be the Madden Bowl, okay? So for the first time in the history of this show, maybe, we're going to be talking about fourth down percentages like it's third down percentages. Washington is the best fourth down team in the entire league. This number is crazy to me.
80-something, I think.
87%.
Yeah. That's the best number since 2000, I think. It's the best number since 2000 with a certain amount of attempts. I think it's more than 16.
It's not like it's a small amount of attempts, right? Like, it'd be easy to be like 87%, and they've attempted 10 fourth downs this year. Yeah. They've attempted 22 fourth downs this year, I believe.
They've been great on fourth. 22. And I think you're going to need a couple of those in this game.
Absolutely. And Detroit too, they do a lot of fourth down. They're number 7 in the league. 7-1. The discrepancy in difference in percentage is astronomical. So Washington at number 1 is 87%. Detroit, number 7, 66.7%.
Yeah.
So it's a very very large difference there. Normally, like in third down percentages, the 1 versus 7 is probably like a 1 or 2 point percentage.
But a lot more opportunities. With higher numbers, the percentages would level out a little bit more. But when you said Washington at 22 on the year.
22 on the year, I believe, yes.
And I bet that's the most of any team.
It's up there. It's up there. There was a couple of other teams, I think, that had 26.
Okay.
So
I bet the Giants are up there. We've been we're like fourth down. Fuck it, go for it. We're a bad team.
20-yard line. Tommy DeVito, quarterback sneak. Why not? But listen, on paper, there's no denying the fact, right? The Detroit Lions are better at, I'd say, every single position on the field. I think you could argue quarterback. Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback right now than Jared Goff. I'm not going to give it to you, but I think you could argue it.
You could make an argument.
You could make an argument. Maybe the linebacker position, but that's more so because Detroit's banged up defensively.
Yeah.
Outside of that, that's it. I mean, we don't really. It's just a fact. The Detroit Lions are a better roster. They have better players up and down. There's a reason.
Kirby Joseph, who led the league in interceptions too. They definitely got some players in that secondary. They got some ballers over there.
Yeah, and it's just that's how it's going to be. You're going to be up against a juggernaut here. They're 15-2 for a reason. They're 9.5-point favorites for a reason. This game is in Detroit. But I mean, if I had to pick a team, like if I had to pick a team that was worse at every single position outside of maybe one or two, debatable, obviously still, to win a game like that, it'd be my guys.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, y'all been doing that all year long. The roster doesn't necessarily entail the capability of that team because that quarterback has something special, just that clutch gene. And if they can keep the game close down the stretch and keep the ball in Jaden Daniels' hands, you're going to have a shot.
This is the sort of game that might come down to whoever has the ball last.
Yeah, or it could be just a Detroit Lions blowout, right?
Absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. We could totally get smoked by 20. I mean, but I don't think – also, we haven't played anybody of Detroit's caliber outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think we only lost 1 or 2 games by double-digit points this entire year.
Yeah, the opening day against the Bucks. That's really the only one I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys have been good since then, and you rookie quarterback first game. We saw that on display here in the playoffs last week when you guys got to play the Bucks again. That Jaden Daniels is a different quarterback than he was from week 1.
It's interesting because Prime says I'm going to feel what the Lions felt against the Eagles in 22, and a lot of people have been making that comparison. The big difference, obviously, is Jaden Daniels and Daniel Jones. This night and day there, big difference. And Gregory says, what is Washington in third downs if they lead the league in fourth downs? Washington's third down offense is 6th in the league at 45.6%.
Yeah, that's good. And a lot of that's from Jaden Daniels' legs. He knows how to, get to those first down markers. I want to talk a little bit more about the no huddle situation because Washington has been running no huddle all year. But the Lions versus no huddle have been pretty decent here. They've allowed only a 59% completion percentage. That's 6th best in the NFL. 7.6 yards per attempt is in the middle of the pack, but they forced a 5.1% throwaway rate, which is 6th best in the NFL. 13 PBUs against no huddle, which is 5th best, and 3 interceptions, which is 3rd best. And they've also had a tendency as of lately to blitz the quarterback more. The Lions defense blitzed on 30% of their plays in the last 4 weeks of the regular season. It's the highest in the NFL. The league average is 15%. They were blitzing at a 30% rate for the last 4 weeks. And the Lions defense under Aaron Glenn defending mobile quarterbacks, they've struggled. I think that's going to be a big thing in this game. So when we look at QB scrambles, they're 16th against QB scrambles. They've allowed the 14th most first downs. The explosive run rate is 38.1%, which is 26th in the NFL. And 4.8% avoided tackle rate is 13th. Now, going against QB-designed runs, they're allowing 4.6 yards per carry, which is 23rd in the NFL. They've allowed the 18th most first downs, and they're 2nd worst as far as explosive run rate goes to quarterbacks on designed runs. So I would look for a few of those with Jaden Daniels. Obviously, keep him out of harm's way, but we've seen it. They're not reluctant to run Jaden Daniels on a QB power, right up the right side of the field.
Quarterback counters.
Yeah, they'll run a lot of that, which is, normally for a quarterback that's a little bit more of a physical stature. But I think that Jaden Daniels is just a lot tougher than a lot of people give him credit for. And the last thing I'll talk about, the one perspective I think that could really put this game away is if the Commanders don't come out here and stop Sonic and Knuckles in the running game with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, combined for 32 touchdowns, over 2,200 yards, and that's a shit ton of yards, but the Commanders have allowed more yards than that on the year. The Commanders allowed 2,337 rushing yards this season. That's the 3rd most in the NFL. And the Commanders are allowing the 2nd worst explosive run rate this year. 13.7% of the time they're allowing an explosive run. So a lot of that, we know that Jahmyr Gibbs can definitely create explosive plays, not only from the backfield, but also in the passing game as well. So I think it starts right there. The plan of attack for the Washington Commanders, to me, in one regard, is pretty similar to how the Rams are going to line up against Saquon Barkley. It starts there. If you can't stop the run, good luck trying to get the victory here. But I told you, man, I'm Team Jamaica right now. And I'm rolling with the Washington Commanders, bro. Like, straight up, man. I see pride. I see power. I see a bad motherfucker that won't take no crap from nobody. And it's Jaden Daniels. So I'm riding with them. It's the playoffs. The Beard ain't been here in 19 years. What would I look like picking the Detroit Lions? I don't care if they're the favorite team in this one by 9.5. I'm taking the Washington Commanders in a close one. I'm going 31-20 in favor of the Commanders.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like it. So I will give you all my score. We're gonna do the roadmap first. Last week's roadmap got a little bumpy. It's gotten to the point where I'm just gonna put 5 on for my roadmap. Just 5. Just that's all. That's what.
Don't get hurt. Finish the games.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this week's roadmap. It's a real fun one for you guys.
All right, let's get it.
Yeah, you get on the freeway. What? No, turn right. Get out of the lane. No. Okay, get the procedure. Just get out the lane.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Awthentik because he already knew what to put the keys in the ignition and turn the car was going to be. And that's going to be you got to score 30 points. If you want to beat the Detroit Lions, you got to score 30 points. And how do you score 30 points? You do it by having 0 punts. I'm going to need 0 punts from the Washington Commanders in back-to-back games. And speaking of 0 punts, if you're going to have 0 punts, you better be 90% or better on 4th down in this game from the Washington Commanders. And we talked about the penalties. I'm sticking with 5. 5 is the theme, baby. So we're going to need 5 or less penalties from the Washington Commanders. Now, speaking of 5, if you want to be able to go 90+% on 4th downs and have 0 punts and score 30 points, you got to have a average to go distance on 3rd down of 5 or less yards. Then, up next, you're going to have to be 100% on scoring opportunities. And what that means, for those of you that don't know, if there is a case where the Detroit Lions miss a field goal, punt, or turn the ball over on downs, in any of those cases, or have a regular turnover, you have to score on every opportunity that you have off of those that the Detroit Lions give you. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to compete is if you take care of those opportunities. And listen, taking care of those opportunities also means, I'm just going to throw it out there, we're getting crazy today. You got to get crazy if you want to win as a 9.5-point underdog. 100% in the red zone, okay? You got to be 100% in the red zone. Listen, I've been tossing my hat this number of rushing yards for, it feels like 4 weeks, but we're going to stick with it. Jaden Daniels has got to run for at least 40. B-Rob's got to go for at least 60. And Awthentik's got to go for at least 40. Okay? We're going to need 140 from the trio. That's just
I think you're going to get the 140, but I don't know about the breakup, the way you slice the pie right there.
It might be 80 from Jaden and 20 and 20, right? Listen, speaking of running backs and running yards, this is going to be dicey. You're going to have to hold Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery combined under 120 yards rushing. And then last but certainly not least, when you put the car in park, you turn the car off, you take the ignition, the keys out the ignition. Those 3 things, ladies and gentlemen, you got to win the turnovers, the time of possession, and the 3rd downs. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your roadmap to victory. And victory is what will be coming. It's going to be the miracle in Motown. The Washington Commanders are going to walk away victorious with a close game by a final score of 31-30.